in protest of this racist voter law in Georgia, but some other significant things we were talking about in that segment, but also the last time we were on the show about we got to look more locally. And so I wanted to bring up, I went to high school in Evanston, Illinois. You played college football in Evanston, Illinois, and they just passed the first ever reparations bill. And, some people are saying it's.
Sorry, I'm gonna keep it quick. Okay, I get the connection. That's why you brought them on. Like, I went to school in Evanston, you went to school in Evanston. So let's just talk about it. You still needed somebody who knows some shit about reparations, Graham.
It's not perfect or it doesn't have this or that, but I wanted to at least first, I'm just going to read the outline of the bill and then we can talk about it because it's significant. It's significant just that this happened. Evanston, Illinois becomes first U.S. city to pay reparations to Black residents. The Chicago Suburb City Council voted 8-1 to distribute $400,000 to eligible Black households. And they're going to distribute $400,000 to eligible Black households. Each qualifying household would receive $25,000 for home repairs or down payments on property. The program is being funded through donations and revenue from a 3% tax on the sale of recreational marijuana. Well, look at that. The city has pledged to distribute $10 million over 10 years. Qualifying residents must either have lived or been a direct descendant of a Black person who lived in Evanston between 1919 to 1969 and who suffered discrimination in housing because of city ordinances, policies, or practices. So for those of you folks watching who don't know, Evanston, it's the first suburb north of the city of Chicago on Lake Michigan, and it was one of the first cities to allow after the Civil War, rather, when Southerners, both Black and white, but freed slaves could come up there and live and work. But it wasn't this utopia. There was a lot of redlining that had happened in Evanston, and so having, gone to school there, how do you view this bill? I mean, obviously overall it's a big win, but how do you view, what was your first reaction to it?
Who is $25,000 a big win for? Edie, you've bought a home before. How much would that $25,000 have helped you on putting money down on your house? And I understand, but we live in LA, and we'll get to this.
I can tell you about Georgia. So my parents bought a house in Middle Georgia in 1971 for $24,000. So $25,000 isn't going to get you anywhere now. They sold that house for $125,000 in the mid 90s. So
and that was the 90s. That house,
that's right. Right. The $25,000 is nothing.
Yeah, for down payment assistance. We'll get to that part with Darity, but the median house in Evanston is $455,000. So $25,000 is not a down payment for a home in Evanston. So you still have to have some kind of money saved up to even take advantage of this program. So you still have to have a certain level of influence. And it's not enough money. Just call this a little housing grant program, because it's just really what it is. It's a Black targeted housing program, grant program. But let's play some more. But this is a win for who? And this is why I wanted you to come, Edie, because I remember we kind of had some of these conversations, and then I remember I had to kind of tell you how I had tempered feelings about what was going on, because I think a lot of white people hear reparations and that things are moving and they're like, oh, that's great, but they're not understanding that some things that they're calling reparations, this is a reparations housing bill, but for them to be like, oh, Black America, this is the first time we played Black Americans reparations. It's a housing reparations bill. I feel like you have to be specific, because when you say reparations, people just think slavery. So people are going to be like, oh, well, people are already getting paid for this whole large debt. You have to be specific, and I think it's not specific enough. Do you guys have anything before I play this some more? I'm sorry, I just had to jump in because that.
But I agree with you I agree with you that when it should be that noted in the headlines that you have to spend the money a certain way or you don't get the money. That's my word.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like you're just giving people cash. Exactly. When you hear like, oh, people in Evanston are getting reparations, you're like, oh, they're going to get 25 grand. But then you read the fine print, it's like, oh, well, it's only for housing, which means you have to have credit to qualify for a house. Plus, you still have to have enough money to add to that 25,000.
Yeah. Well, let me jump on that real quick. All right. So those of you who are new to this show, just to be clear, reparations, pure reparations, is a federal deal. The federal government is the only one that has enough funds. The federal government is ultimately responsible for what happens in the confines of the continent of the United States and its territories, and ultimately the the episodes, the epochs, as Dr. Darity and Ms. Mullins say, the three epochs that we are dealing with are slavery, Jim Crow, and post 1965. What can we call them? Crimes against humanity, such as the drug war, redlining. Well, redlining was started in the 40s and 50s, but I mean, all those things that happened to us, all of them count when we start talking about reparations. It's not just for slavery. It's not just for redlining. It's not just for Jim Crow. It's not just for mass incarceration. It's not just for the drug war. It's all these things because
and that's why we're not the same as you new motherfuckers. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And this is an unbroken continuum. We can talk about that whole 5 minutes of Reconstruction that ultimately failed because of white terrorism and the murder of an American president. And nobody can tell me those things are not connected. All right. John Wilkes Booth was he was part of the White Citizens Council, one of those organizations that were anti-black or anti-black American, slaves, or anti-black people, whatever you want to call them. He was in one of those organizations before he killed Abraham Lincoln. So these things are connected. There was a goal, and the goal was to stop Reconstruction because we were succeeding, and the people that went to war on this country, the internal terrorists that went to war on this country, internal traitors that went to war with this country, they wanted what they figured was theirs back, and the death of Abraham Lincoln was the cost of getting those things back. And I just wanted to share that with y'all. All right, let's move on.
And I can confirm that. I can confirm that still lives today. Sorry.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
I can confirm that John Wilkes Booth philosophy still exists today, right?
Absolutely. Mud, what'd you say?
Well, I also wanted to chime in because I think we need to talk about how far-reaching this is, or how it isn't really far-reaching, because they're talking about even for the budget for 10 years, it only being $10 million. $1
million a year.
Yeah, at 25,000 a pop. I mean, we're talking about only 400 people total. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so I mean, I'm not assuming that there was a bunch of black people that went through this, because I understand that this was a affluent neighborhood, but it's just not far reaching enough to even be really described as reparations to me. This is kind of a joke.
I agree, and they had to create new money for it, right? Or they're using new money that was created, right? Because had they not had these quote unquote excess funds from legalizing marijuana after all of us have been locked up for it. That's another issue we'll talk about some other time. All our people being locked up for marijuana and still getting locked up in places where it's legal, excuse me, or at least decriminalized, right? And all these things are the fact that they're only using new money for this, not using taxes from regular people, but from this specific industry, that's wild to me. They still don't want anybody to pay for the things that they did to us. It's absolutely wild to me. All right.
I gotta say this, man. I just gotta piggyback off what Mud said. Hey, yo, Graham Elwood just said that it's going to be $10 million. This is a housing initiative. And you know what? They're going to focus $10 million.
It's a cheap ass housing program. Preach.
I mean, if I'm wrong, correct me. So you talking about some $10 million, right? $10 million is like focused on black home ownership or whatever the fuck. Listen, man. Like Edie just explained to you, you feel me? Her family, she's a white lady from the South. They feel me, a working class white lady. You know what I mean? Probably her family bought a home for $25,000 and sold it in 1990s for $125,000. So let's just do some math then. A house, a decent home in America, with South, North, whatever like that, is $100,000 at the fucking least. Like, you gotta have at least $200,000, $250,000 for a decent home. So now you're gonna give every black person $25,000 to buy a home
to put down.
Like when the house is 100. So even if it's a family of four, so you basically just telling me like it's $10 million in this fund. So basically, you telling me that 100. We gotta. It's thousands of people that live. It's thousands of black people that live in Evanston, wherever the fuck they are. You telling me that motherfucker like you're gonna give house and it's $10 million in this fund to give. Basically, you're gonna give 100 Negro families houses that have families. Let's say they have families of four.
No, sorry, I don't want to correct you, John, but it's 400,000 for this initiative. 400. It's 10 million total for the entire program. This is just one initiative in the program. It's 400,000. What they are distributing is less than what my house is worth right now in Watts, California, living in the fucking hood.
Yes.
I can sell my house and give out more money than they give me.
All right, you right.
I'm just saying. I ain't the government. I'm just saying. Go ahead. I'm sorry, John. Forgive me. No, because you were saying 10 million. It's too much. No, it's only 400,000. Keep going with your good math skills.
If it's only 400,000, let's say it's 10 million then, and it's $100,000. Like the government is $100,000 to buy like a fucking house when the roof don't jump on your head. Like, you know what I mean? How is this reparations for thousands of black people that live in the fucking country? I mean, thousands of black people that live in that particular area. Like, how was this motherfucking reparative justice? Like, so basically, you just gonna give motherfucking housing vouchers to probably like 100 black families like, that are eligible. You feel me? Like this shit is crazy. Like this shit is crazy. This is why I say local reparations is not the fucking answer to our problems and not the answer to our issues. Like this shit is fucking nuts. $10 million. Like it's like they're gonna give $10 million for Negroes to buy houses. When
$400,000 for Negroes to buy. They gave Negroes $400,000 to split up and get $25,000 each for houses. That's what the shit said. It said 400. I'm gonna pull it back up because I got the actual shit. Because I'm gonna start pulling up more shit.
I'm reading it. I'm reading it.
So that's like 16 people, right?
Yes,
it is.
Yes.
But you see the 400,000, right, Edie? My eyes are not deceiving me.
I'm at the Chicago Sun-Times. So it says the money will be distributed in amounts up to $25,000.
Up to. Ooh, I missed the up to. Y'all pick and that then, up to could mean 5,000. It could mean 10, or it could mean 25.
Probably based on the house they're buying.
Go ahead, Edie. I'm sorry.
I'm still reading because I remember that there's, from reading it earlier today, that there's directives on how you can spend the money.
You can only buy a house. But we'll come back to it. I'll let you catch back up.
Here it is. Okay. Under the plan, the money can be used to help buy a home, pay a mortgage, or for home improvements.
There you go. So I own a home. $25,000 in home improvements is wonderful, but that's a drop in the fucking bucket. And that's doing work by yourself. $25,000 for other people doing work on your house is not that much. Am I lying, MG?
It's true.
Not at all.
That's all I had to say.
Because we got a few homeowners on the line. Edie, your homeowner, $25,000 can go quick if you start trying to fix it, especially if your house hasn't had any work done to it in let's say 20, 30, 40 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we bought ours. It was 15 years old and nobody, had done anything. So we came in right away and started fixing appliances and stuff. Stuff stopped working.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Stuff started leaking. So,
25K goes by fast, especially if you start bringing people in to fix it.
You're right. Right. And so there, I believe one of the council members is Black and voted against it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that in the article?
Yeah, absolutely.
And she gave her reasons why, and they're exactly dead on to what y'all are saying.
It's not enough, and it's not.
That's
it's
right.
a drop in the bucket. Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's go further through this, and then we'll play what Darity had to say as well. And Mud, did you have anything? Because I feel like we're gonna have to move you up because I feel like you never get to talk.
Nah, I said what I needed to say.
Okay.
One, surprised. Like I said last time, I remember I saw like there's a reparations, it was like trending on Twitter or something. And I was like, okay, let me like look into this, like what's going on. And then I saw it was Evanston, Illinois, and that's my first thing. It's like Evanston, like where I went to college.
Sorry, I'm gonna stop being nitpicky. But how long have we known about Evanston and what's going on up there? Mm-hmm. You went to school there, you don't know. You Black, you in this political space, you talk about reparations and you don't know. Edie be sending me shit. Edie's a white lady. She be sending me shit about cases and shit going on with reparations and shit everywhere. So you late, bruh. Edie knew about this shit before your Black ass did. Go ahead, MG.
But that's the point, right? Because that's what the leftist doesn't even want to bring up reparations. You know, I mean, in some ways, a Graham should be commended for bringing it up at all, especially when people don't want to talk about it in any serious way on the left, right? It's not enough, right? And he doesn't bring on someone who knows enough about it. That's granted, but at the same time, you know, at least he's mentioning it, you know, because it's a really low bar on the left. God damn, it's a low bar, and it's pitiful that it has to be that low. But that's a discussion for another day.